Hi, Carlos.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining and thanks for agreeing to do this. Welcome everyone. Hoping this is a super informative session. I'm essentially like the Barbara Walters of this conversation with Carlos. So we're just going to have a nice conversation and then open it up for some Q&A at the end.
Okay,
So
let's do it.
yeah, let's do it. Okay, so Carlos, do you want to share a little background on what you do at TELUS and what your training needs are, and kind of a little bit about TELUS in general?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Super excited to be here. I work for TELUS International, which is a BPO industry, basically focused on customer service. However, our recently focus has been moving into the digital world as well. We all know that that's what we all need to do at some point, and TELUS is also evolving there. As Stephanie mentioned, I work on the learning side, creating global projects which helps our newly customers and also ongoing programs to boost their learning experience, right? Making sure that they know exactly what to do and how to do it, and that's who I am.
That's great. That's great. So who are the people that you focus on training, and kind of give me a little bit of understanding about the demographics of the people that are utilizing the games and the training?
Absolutely. Whenever there is a new program coming into TELUS, right, all of our new learners who are going into that, let's say, new hire training, that's our main population, right, our main audience. However, one of the most recent, let's say, focus that we have gone through is all of those learners that at some point they're already tenure, they already know what type of work they're doing. However, they need to have a little bit of a boost in their learning, right? So that's where Training Arcade comes in, right, in our business, making sure that they can have a better experience understanding specific procedures and how they can go into different processes.
Okay, that's great. And would you say like ages kind of runs the gamut, like all different kind of from entry level to higher up? Is it kind of do you find that there's all sorts of different kind of people that are utilizing the games?
Absolutely. We have seen that since people coming in and since they are 18, right, that which is our entry age, right, until managers, senior directors, and all of those members who are at a higher level position, all of them go in through the training arcade portion. Because what we have seen is that training arcade not only helps at a specific age, right? Of course, we have seen that at some point, right, a specific uh, age of team members are more likely to go into the games based on their experience because they're more into a different digital world rather than let's say the millennials or people above that, right? But we have seen that training arcade fits all of ages, right, and all type of roles in the industry.
Okay, that's great. And I think everyone knows kind of the topic of this from the title, and that's likely why you're here, but kind of just a little bit of background. So TELUS, and we'll get into some of these questions, is utilizing our game mechanics that ELB Learning offers. So that's kind of what we're speaking specifically to in their training. So I just wanted to give a real quick to that. Carlos, how long have you been utilizing games in your training?
We started the research, right, because we understand how gamification is an important strategy. We will not like to call it gamification at all, but more than a strategy, right, to increase learning, performance, and engagement, right? So our research started back on 2020. However, when we started with this great partnership with Training Arcade was on 2021 on May, to be more specific, right? So since then, we have been working, creating games for different type of programs and projects that has helped us to enable right that learning that we are looking forward with awesome results so far. So I think it has been a great journey since then, and of course making sure that we also evolve the way also the industry requires it.
That's great. So curious, when you obviously I recall, when you all were coming on board, and did you start with utilizing our games, or were you using any other kind of games prior to that? Were you creating, I get on calls a lot of the time with people that'll be like, I used to make my own Jeopardy game through an Excel. And, of course, we're the only company that has the, sole licensing rights of Jeopardy. But I'm just curious, was there anything like that for you all where you were trying to push out learning and games, before you got to where you were using our, do-it-yourself game authoring platform?
Absolutely. What we do in specifically in our department, it's creating and developing a training material, right? That helps as we discussed, right? New hires and ongoing trainings. So definitely we have a experience a great change in this because our learning experience designers, who are the persons in charge of developing and creating this material, they are experts on what they're doing, right? However, what we were looking, it was something a little bit more plug and play, right? So that's what Training Arcade gives us the opportunity to do so, right? Because it's a little bit more, um, let's say, easy for any type of person, right? Without any design or development experience to be able to accommodate those games based on their needs. So that's why it's so important for us to have this partnership, because what we have seen is that it doesn't matter what is your role, right, in the industry. At some point you are capable of creating your own games.
That's super great. So, because that's one of the things that we talk about a lot of the time, is that you don't have to know how to write code. You don't have to necessarily be an instructional designer. You certainly can be, and that can add its own value. But there can be a variety of different people, as long as you have the content to be able to put it into the format of the games and push it out
Exactly,
like that.
exactly, and that is one of our projects that we work as well, because what we want is to empower and enable our trainers, right, inside TELUS International, because they are a expert, right, in training, right, delivering. However, whenever it comes to create, perhaps that's not their strength. So that's why we have a part of our strategy has been that our experienced people on design and development, they work along with our trainers to ensure that they understand at least the basics, right? Because of how to create games, and they can do it themselves, right? So that's one of the strategies that we have used, in which we have seen also great results as well.
Amazing. And I feel like I have another question that I was going to ask you. It feels a little bit redundant, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just from what we've already kind of talked about. But what is it that you like most about games for training, utilizing games as training?
I think that the first thing that I would like to highlight is the short time that it takes for people to understand a topic, right? Because the more time the more time they invest in playing, it's what they where they're gonna showcase a little bit more of their knowledge, right? And of course, the improving engagement. We have seen that people loves games, right? It doesn't matter what are you doing on your day to day. However, if you play a game, that helps you a lot. And the one thing that I would like to also to highlight, it's how these specific games are linked into the Bloom's taxonomy, right? We all know how the games are attached to a specific level of the of the of the Bloom's taxonomy, right? And how that, depending on the need that we have, it's the type of game that we can use, right? So we have seen people from the basics in from a remembering, right, understanding, moving into a creating part, which is, I think, the awesome part of it, because as long as they need to improve any of those levels, they just move into a different game, and that's how they start increasing their knowledge and performance.
No, that's amazing. That's great information. there was something I wanted to ask you more about, but it's gone out of the head. What were what were some of the training challenges that you were trying to solve by utilizing games in your training process?
Whenever we have found that there's a specific, let's say, metric or KPI that we would like to target. However, it is not as easy to tie it to any of the games. The breakdown that we have to do of that specific target or KPI, and how we can make sure that a game fits into it. I think that's one of the one of the biggest challenges that we face, right, for the games, because sometimes it's not as easy. What we have focused as well is that the games are utilized as on a specific target. So they are not like general information or for everybody. So what has helped us a lot is making sure that we can align those needs right into that specific target, and that's how the game has helped us a lot.
That's great. So prior to utilizing the games, I'm curious, because one of the things that comes just inherently by utilizing the games is the super robust analytics that come along with it to understand specifically, how many times people are coming back and playing the games, what their scores are. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But was that something that was new to your process to be able to get all of that data from people playing the games?
Absolutely, right. I think that the analytics portion of it, it's one of our key elements that we encounter from a training arcade perspective, that it helps us not only to understand how many or how much time they're investing, but specific details on where it's failing or where they need a little bit more of reinforcement, right? So I think that's one of the greatest portion that comes along with training arcade, right? That has helped us to understand a little bit better how we can improve specific areas. And instead of giving them at the end of the analysis a full disclosure or a full training, we just focus on that specific details where we encounter like the biggest challenges for our learners.
That's great. So a few things I wanted to ask just to piggyback on some of that. So I think what I was remembering now that I wanted to ask you earlier was for the time. So you all are obviously training a lot of different people, obviously, as we touched on, a lot of different learner profiles, a lot of different, clients and different topics that you're training on. So do you feel like when you have your material prepared for that, it's very easy to put that into the game format and push it back out? Do you have an idea of like kind of how much time you spend actually putting the game together when you have the information ready?
It takes typically between 1 week to have everything ready, right? To create
Content.
one or two games exactly
Yep.
when all the information is ready and available for the learners. But what we have seen is the more information we have, the easier it is to create a game. And that's what we have focusing as well with our trainers, making sure that they understand that the more they have showcase or the breakdown of their process, it will be easier for them to create the game.
Okay, excellent. And curious, one of the questions that I had was on specific game mechanics, but I'm curious before we get into like what your favorite game mechanic and, if there's one, again, speaking to how many different kinds of people that you're training, one of the things that I always tell clients is to, put that content into a few different game mechanics because different people, as you alluded to, receive information differently, right? Some people might respond better to a super gamey game like a endless jumper, and some people might respond better to a scenario-based branching narrative game. Do you put content into a few different game mechanics, or do you typically stay with one and kind of see what the scores are there?
We typically stays with one game, right? And we move along to other games based on the specific need that we have encountered. Because since the main focus was to target a specific areas of the learning that we encounter, we found that a game would be better focused, right? And into the strategy of plug and play it will be easier for us to just have the need, make a game, uh, play it, right, and move after that, right? So I think that's the easier way for us, which has gave us the best results so far.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have a favorite game mechanic? Do you have one that
Absolutely,
you
I
like
have
the
one.
best?
I am a very people who analyze a lot. So the scenarios portion and the detective one, it's one of my favorite games so far. However, I think what we have used the most, it's the scenarios game and the jump game, because since we're focusing on a lot of new hires, the remembering it's one of the biggest focus that we have. So I think that's the one that also helps us a lot to engage with the learners and ensure that they are aware on what they need to do after they finish any type of training, right, during their
Oh,
initial stage at TELUS International.
yeah. No, it's funny that you say that because I jump is one that it's great for like those. So for anyone that is unfamiliar, so our scenarios game that Carlos referenced is one that is a branching narrative game, kind of like a choose your own adventure that you can put your learners, it's great for, customer success, great for sales, negotiating, and you can put your learners in the format of a game where they can kind of go through this path without any actual really serious outcomes happening because it's in the format of a game and they can kind of learn the different things that they should have chosen to say, and you can build the game out very easily, super branching or super linear if it was like a safety scenario. And then the other game Carlos brought up, which I love, the jump. It's an endless jumper game, which it's great for pre-knowledge checks to start understanding what your learner knows. It's great for in the middle of training. It's great at the end of training. It's fantastic for acronym training, right? People come into a new company and there's all these different things they have to learn. It's Carlos, it's jump. I do like jump, and it's fun how you can also add so many different things to it, like limited amount of questions and timers and all of that. So that's fun.
Exactly. What we have seen that people like the most, it's how they can ensure that the more times they play, it will be easier for them to remember it, right? It
Mhm.
will be easier for them to understand a little bit more of the context and the information that they need to apply whenever they go into a production, right? And whenever they start doing a specific procedures, right, in production. So I think that's one of the greatest hits that we encountered, right, in the training arcade portfolio, right? That game not only increases engagement, increases productivity, and increases the amount of time they have to invest, right, in a specific training.
That's great. That's great. So just curious, are there any like features when you're building games, maybe perhaps like from the administrative perspective that you enjoy, or like any of the settings or any things that you have found really come in handy, whether it's like translations or timers or whatever it is that you find helps in your game creation?
Do you mean like from a design and development perspective?
However you want to answer it, really just anything from the training arcade, from the games, whether it's the user experience or the back end of the platform, just things that you're like, this is really helpful.
I think that one of the greatest and more useful features that we have encountered, it's the timer. That
Yeah.
I would like to highlight that one because based on the industry that we work, everything is so fast and
Mhm.
and and, and timelines, agendas are really tight, right? So having this timer set for the games, it's really easy for us to understand, okay, how much time you have to invest on a game. So it's easier for the production, for the operations team, understand, okay, I need to have this team members playing the game for 20 15 10 minutes, right? And it's easy for them because the target will be accomplished in those minutes, and it's very quick for them to move into different or to have more people play without affecting all of the productivity, right? So I think that's one of the biggest features that we have inside of the games, right? And of course, the simple the or the very very plain layout that the games have, it's very easy to understand, right?
Mhm.
It does not have it is not complex for us to know what we need to add in order for us to create a game.
That's great. Good. That's great. So just curious, have you all had an opportunity to like run any like data or analytics or get an idea like of any of that stuff of like, how many games we're creating, like how, accuracies, things like that, that you've created?
Yeah, absolutely. So far, we have created more than 200 games, right? So
Nice.
far, with since 2021, over 12,000 people have played the games or unique players, right? So
Mhm.
that's the greatest thing, and it from all regions, all around TELUS International, right? So that's one of the greatest features that we have as well from the analytics perspective, in which we have a lot of team members from being the entry level into above, right? All of them are playing, and a lot of people are engaged with this mechanic. Sometimes we have programs in which they utilize the arcade for a couple of months based on the needs that they have, but we have other programs that they use it as a recurrent a strategy overall in their programs. So that's what we have encountered, in which we have all types of people working on it.
Yeah, that's interesting because that is something a lot of different people that I talk to, they are trying to figure out where exactly they're going to implement games. And you just touched on it. There's a lot of people that are utilizing games in onboarding programs, and then they move on to a different kind of training. Maybe it's that ongoing upskilling, doing a variety of different trainings along the way. And it is one of the very cool things about our model, because the way that we go to market is we're encouraging people to continue to utilize the games along the way, right? So that's it's cool that you touched on that.
Yeah, part of what we discussed with the programs is that this has not to be just a one-time uh, experience that have to go through. So that's why the minimum that we put into programs, it's at least 3 months, right? And if you want to use it more than that, that's perfectly fine. However, we definitely think that the more you are involved into the training arcade, the more you are involved into the games, it's easier for you to at least see the result, right? Because to be very honest, Katie, at the beginning, people were very skeptical to know if it will work or not.
Mhm,
Because at the beginning, people were thinking, okay, how this will actually work,
mhm.
since it's the very first time.
Right.
So we gotta make sure that we have the proof of concept of this, right?
Correct.
So the more time we invested, the better results we were getting from all our learners, and we were able to compare the results from people using the training arcade with people without using premium arcade, and it really showcased the value that the training arcade brings to us, right? So I think that's definitely one of the things that we have established, making sure that they understand that this is not only a one shot and that's it, but
Mhm,
they have to take it for the long run.
mhm. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, people say that all the time. They're like, I don't necessarily want my employees playing games. And where the sell is, or where the proof is when you showed the analytics. Like
Exactly.
that's it. It's like they're not just playing a game. There's, if we are putting the right content into the game, it's well beyond playing a game. And we have evidence just from our own case studies of kind of looking under the hood of our own games, understanding that there is an increase in knowledge retention. And it sounds like you're having that same response at TELUS.
Exactly. When we presented the 2022 results overall, we were able to showcase improve some results of engagement, performance, and also the people being able to acquire faster their knowledge, right, through this specific process. So I think that's where the value comes in, right, and that's why we have decided to move along again, right, and moving with our partnership with all of you, because we truly understand what all the benefits are from the training arcade
Yeah,
are.
yeah, that's great. Curious if you have any like anecdotal information that you would want to share, like to the people, maybe it's the people that are creating the games, maybe it's people that are actually playing the games in response to, you incorporating this into your, training environment.
Absolutely. What first, we try to do like this pilot thing that's how we call it, the pilot refresher,
Mhm.
because we wanted to understand the proof, right, of and the value that this will come, right. But a lot of the back and forth where we spent most of the time at the beginning was trying to understand what was the need from the programs, when sometimes they even didn't know what exactly was their need. So we were able to manage that. However, I think for everybody to understand and have a little bit of a better perspective is that it will be easier, right, whenever you are coming from this design and development perspective, that whenever you try to create games, you have to have the the target that you would like to accomplish with the game. So
Mm.
I think that's where we spent most of our time identifying what was the need, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes again, we're not the expert on the specific knowledge of the programs. We're experts on creating the projects, on designing and development. However, we're not experts on the content. So when we partnered up with all of those programs, that was one of our main challenges. However, when we were able to move along on creating a specific process that will enable us to be faster, that's when we um, created this streamlined process in which it takes the 1 week or less to create a game, and before it was almost like a month.
Mhm.
So we have reduced all that time, making sure that we can have games faster and that will actually accomplish their goal.
No, it's a really good point because, I think you can, without having the right objectives in mind, right? Building a game, it could just be a game. You have to know what you're actually trying to have the learners come out of that game with by practicing and learning and having, you know, thinking through things, corrective feedback paradigms, bringing things back through. So you've got, repetition in the learning until that stuff sticks. So it's a good point that it sounds like, you've got this week, but that week is likely, getting all of your information together and, and putting it into the format of a game, which, you know, that is the hardest part, is getting all of that content and making sure that you understand what the goal is. Like the goal isn't just to have a game.
Exactly. That's what was one of is and was one of our main objectives, right, since the very beginning, because we didn't focus on the programs and we didn't let them know that okay, here's a game. No, we always focus on, look, we have a new strategy to accomplish goals faster, right? And the game come along with that strategy, right? So that's why the focus at the beginning was very hard, because putting all that information together into a game, it's the hardest part. Creating the game itself, it's very easy. Very
Right.
easy. Again, the process, all the information that is needed or that the trainer arcade asks, it's very simple to fill out, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's why having all of those conversations, because we work with different type of programs, financial, home warranties, and electrical. So I think, and also health. So a lot of all of those programs and businesses are very different in
Mhm.
different ways, right? So we wanted to make sure that the process at the end, even you are a different type of business, it's the same for everybody to
Right.
understand it, right? So I
Yep.
think that's why we reduce the time. We are more efficient and more effective creating games now that, of course, we were when we started.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. No, it makes sense. It's like anything. Uh, well, okay. So one last question, and then we can open it up to Q&A. Just wanted to know, what's the future look like? Are you looking to, incorporate the gamification component? Are you looking to go into virtual reality? Are there any kind of plans in the future for TELUS for training?
Absolutely. I think that the gamification portion, it's one of the key elements, not only for the future, but what we're trying already to implement, right? I think that opportunity and helping us out with the games, it's what the new reality it is about, right? We understand that the learners right now are very dynamic. They think a lot, right? So the more we can prepare ourselves in learning with this strategy that will not only for you to understand, okay, I have to go to a training and I will be playing games, but the whole experience of you being immersed into a gamified training, I think that's one of our biggest objectives that we have so far. So making sure that whenever you come into any type of training, it doesn't matter if it's a new hire, if it's an ongoing, right, or it's just an upskill training, you can understand that you will go through a different experience, right?
Correct.
That experience, it will definitely think of a game, right? Because it's part of the future that we have so far.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. So what we're talking about for anyone that's unfamiliar is we kind of have two components. We've got our game builder, and then we also have a gamified destination called arcades. And all of the things that we're talking about should and can and should be customized for the group that is taking part of it, so that all of the training material, whether it's the gamified destination with learning journeys or whether it's games, should be super relevant to the specific person that is going through that. And that's one of the dynamic things that Carlos is alluding to, that they're doing with their training, is making sure that all of these games and content are specific to the groups of people that are taking the training. So Stephanie, do we have any?
Yes, we do have some audience questions. What you just explained was one of them, the difference between training arcade and arcades. So that is perfect, because I know
Probably should have started with that.
I know. Sometimes we assume that people know, because obviously internally we're very familiar with it, but they are very similar names. So sometimes it needs a little bit of clarification. So we had a question for Carlos. Are you the one who got TELUS to start using games? And if so, how did you convince your stakeholders to try this new strategy?
At the beginning, yeah, I am the one leading the gamification portion for all TELUS International, right? So at the beginning, let me tell you, it was very tough because people, they were not willing to be open to experiment, right, with games. So definitely a lot of back and forth conversations were there to ensure that the stakeholders that wanted to go through this, they were willing to experiment. So let me tell you that was one of our key elements at the beginning, because we were able to find people and of course leaders that they were able or willing to experiment, willing to invest without knowing if it will be effective or not. And of course, we were very honest and with we came with the truth and let them know that this was an experiment, right? That we were trying to understand, and that's one of the agreements that we initially got with Training Arcade, right? Before getting ourselves committed to a lot of years, right? We started with 1 year as a proof, right, to understand that if this will be worthy or not. But definitely challenges at the beginning, and a lot of doors being closed, right? Because not all of the of people were willing to invest, right? Because of course, pulling out people from phones, from whatever they're doing, that represents money, right? So of course we wanted to make sure that at the end they will be start seeing the value of it, right? And that proof of concept that we said at the beginning was the one who opened a lot of other doors, right, in all of our regions, because just as a testimony as well, after we share the results, all programs were knocking our doors and asking them us to create games for their programs. And at the end, we have a lot of queue, right, of and a lot of programs asking for that. And at some point, we were not able to handle all of those, and we have to prioritize based on the size of our team, right? However, we were able to accomplish very good results with different type of businesses. So I think that's the great value that we had at the end of from Training Arcade.
That's fantastic. What a good problem to have. Too many people want you to make training.
Yeah.
And then kind of related to that, we had a question about, so the Training Arcade provides a lot of data, which is great. Do you use any outside tools like business intelligence, analytics tools to process that data? Or do you find that just the reports that come out of the Training Arcade are enough to help you get insights?
Inside our team, we have a learning analytics project team dedicated to the analysis, right, of data, and of course proposing solutions for that data as well. Because after we we do the breakdown, we identify the gaps, we identify what can be improved. We come back again and we improve it, right? Because that's the learning cycle that we have at TELUS, right? It just it doesn't stop right as we deliver training and that's it. We always are trying to improve. So this team, it's dedicated to that specific analysis, right? They work along with all of us, and then we circle back to ensure we improve it. So if for example, at the end of any game, we encounter challenges, we encounter difficulties on any specific area, we circle back, we improve it, and then we throw again back the game, right? So that's part of what we do.
Fantastic. That sounds like a great process. I'm sure a lot of people are jealous that you have that many people and experts who can help you there.
Yeah.
All right, another question. Have you found that there's any resistance from, say, older learners who don't want to play games? And if so, how have you handled that?
We have not, let's say, do the breakdown on age, right? Because since we hire from different ages, the games are not specifically focused on a specific range, right, of age. So we have not seen any issues so far that says I or any type of feedback that says I didn't like the game because it was too complicated for me to play or something like that. Because we also at the end sent a survey, right, that helped us to understand how engaging was for the team member, right, the game. So that also helped us out to improve, right? That's part of the analysis that we do. But so far we have not seen any type of challenges for the age specifically. So I think that people, as long as you give them something that will improve your knowledge, as long as you give them something that will improve the quality of their job, people will be fine with it, right? I haven't seen anyone that says, okay, you here's a game that will help you to do better your job. Oh no, thank you very much. I don't want to do it. People go with it, right? So people understand that as long as you're helping them to improve what you do, it will be they're gonna take it and they're gonna go through it, right? So of course, I don't want to say it and I don't have the data, but there will be people that perhaps find it challenging. But at the end, right? That's why we use the games not only for one time. You can go at different times so you can be better at it, right? So if the first time you fail, that's okay, no worries. You have another chance to go with it. You are not losing anything because remember that the games are not focused to do it like a pass rate or to a test, right, or an assessment. These are just help you to be better. right? So the more you play, the better you will be. And at the end, if you fail at the first time, that's okay. You can try a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and you will be better at it, right? So and that's the that will that tackles the purpose of the game. The more you play, the better you will be at it, right? So I think that's something that it's very valuable for us.
It's a great answer.
Yeah. And then can you give some examples of which specific games you think are the best for sales and soft skills from your experience?
Okay, what we have seen first is that any game can be focused depending on what you want to accomplish on that specific vertical or that specific topic, right? Because sales, for example, if you want your team members to focus on soft skills, but they don't know soft skills, right? They can start with a jump, right?
Mhm.
So that's the great thing about it, right? Depending on what specific you want them to focus, it's how you can manage the game. So I couldn't say, okay, this game it's for sales, or this game it's for any other business, right? The games can be used for any type of business, right? Depending on what you want them to accomplish. For example, the scenario game, which is the one that we use the most, are specifically related to processes, right? Depending, okay, you want to have a flow, you want them to understand, okay, how to answer specific questions, or how to go through specific scenarios. Eh, So that's where you use the scenarios game, right? Because that will help you. It will help you a lot for the team members to know exactly what to do. So the games are focused not on a specific type of business, but on the specific need that you have, right? So if you have seen that your sales team, they are lacking on soft skills, but the soft skills could be of different things as well. Perhaps they do not know soft skills, so they have to go through the basics. So that you have to start with a remember, yeah, with a remember game, right, which is a jump, right, or a Jeopardy. If you want them to be like to analyze more the scenarios depending on what type of stakeholder they're handling the sales. Perhaps it's a scenario, it's a detective game that it's the one that you need, right? So it's depending on the specific need that you have. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
I think that was a great answer.
I think that's a great answer. And I agree. There's some games that lend itself, but you're absolutely right. You have to understand what you're training on and then back into which game mechanic is appropriate. I think
Exactly.
right on.
And I will give a little plug for our YouTube channel because we have a bunch of different webinars on how to build each of the individual game types in the training arcade. So if you go and watch those, I think you'll understand a lot better what you can do with each game and how they lend themselves to different training topics.
Yep.
So shameless plug for ELB Learning at YouTube.
Mhm.
One last question I think we have is, are you using the training arcade games as kind of standalone games, or are they integrated in your LMS?
They're integrated in our LMS, right? Because what we have seen is that, of course, first, by protecting the information of of the business, right? That's why it goes through our LMS. I think that's one of the biggest hits that we have there, because it will help us to at least try to minimize any type of impact or information being out, right? Or if we don't want us to do that, right? And that's the first one. The second one, it's because it's easier for the team members just to access it right there. They have a lot of different content inside that our LMS, that it is not only related to training arcade. So I think that's also one of our benefits that we have there. So if you want to play a game, it's there, but if you want to go to something else, it's also there. So I think that's one of our objectives there as well, to have it integrated with our LMS.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes complete sense. All right, let's see. Katie, did you have any last questions that you want to ask before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thank you to Carlos for joining. You're a great partner and really, really appreciate you joining and, talking
And
about
we are
your
getting a
experience.
lot of comments in the chat about your enthusiasm, and I think you're inspiring a lot of people to try out games for their learning. So that is awesome.
Excellent, excellent. No, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really sorry if I missed something. However, we have encountered a lot of challenges. We have been able to accomplish great results, and very happy to share those with you. Right, we have created a great partnership with Katie and the rest of the team, right, throughout the last years, and I think that's one of the good things that we have right inside TELUS, that we're always looking for opportunities to improve learning, because we understand that the best way for you to have good results is giving the tools to your learners, giving the tools to your people. In that way, they will become better at their jobs, you will perform better, and of course at the end the results will come along on that, right? So that's why we think definitely, and that Training Arcade is one of those tools that has helped us a lot to improve that knowledge and experience.